Well, first, when I was asked I think in 2002, to draft a proposal for the waterboards of Rhine and IJssel and for STOWA, and also for, at that time, DHV, for the membrane bioreactor, which was in fact drafted in only a week time. I couldn't imagine that it was the start of a series of innovative projects which were carried out at the waterboards in the Netherlands. And I think it has shown that the waterboards are very successful in the LIFE program, and I will come to that later in my presentation. I also want to especially say welcome to our international guests, because this is one of the goals of the LIFE program, dissemination of project results, but also show the EU dimension of the project. So it's very good that this presentation has an international setting. First, I want to shortly introduce Erik and Manders. Then I will get to a general vision about subsidies. Then I will tell something about the story of the waterboards and LIFE, and then some tips and tricks, perhaps for the future. We are a subsidy consultancy. I wrote down 18 people, but from yesterday we heard that we are 20 in mid-August, so we are growing, still growing. And we have a specialization in water and sustainability and energy, and also in life sciences. We work for national subsidy schemes as well as for international subsidy schemes. Then I will come to our vision towards subsidies, because I think it's important that you are well aware what subsidies can achieve, but also when you shouldn't use subsidies at all. And firstly, it's important that you realize that a subsidy should contribute to your to the strategy of your organization. You shouldn't apply for a subsidy just because there is money somewhere, because you have to put in own money and resources as well. As I wrote down here, and it's well, it should fit in your strategy. Might be long-term strategy or mid-term strategy, but a subsidy has to fit in your strategy. For many of the organizations, not only the money is important, but also other kinds of spin-off, like the visibility in Europe or nationally, but also the network you will get, and also the knowledge transfer which you might get from exchanging experiences in settings like we are here today. Then, if you decide to go for a subsidy, you should, in our view, you should firstly look at regional subsidies, then towards national subsidies, and then finally to European subsidies. Because when you go from regional, national towards European subsidies, you will see that the application procedure is becoming more and more complex. On the other hand, the final contribution you can get will be higher as well. So it's always the balance between your necessary input to get the subsidy on one hand, and the funds you can get on the other hand. And also important, you should have a structured approach. Go from project idea, then identify the relevant subsidy schemes you might be willing to use, and then check the feasibility of each of these schemes, and finally go to the formal application. And on any of these steps, you can have a go, no-go, which might reduce your startup costs at an early stage. Then towards the LIFE program. First, some general remarks on the LIFE program. I'm sure Mike will come with more details about the program, and especially with more details on the 2014-2020 program. But it's the only European subsidy program which is uniquely established for environmental projects. It's suitable for the demonstration of new concepts and new technologies, and it has, in general, in the present subsidy scheme, the contributions between 1 to 3 million euros, depending on your project. In the former subsidy schemes, because LIFE is already a program which started in 1992, subsidies were less, but I will come to a possible explanation later on. Mostly applicants are local or regional authorities, NGOs and companies, or combinations of these types of organizations. And it's also a special subsidy program in the EU because it allows that only one single applicant can submit an application, where it is usually the case that you need at least 3 or even 4, 5, 6 applicants to have a successful application. But in general, also in LIFE, you see that consortia are applying for subsidy. And the normal time frame, and I think all of the projects here today are more or less in that time frame for projects, is about 3 to 5 years. Sometimes they may last longer, but then they'll apply for a prolongation, as also the OMSET did. Then towards waterboards and LIFE. For as I said, the LIFE program is already running from 1992 until now. And I've had a short investigation about the results for the Netherlands as a whole. And I found that in the period 1992 until now, about 150 projects, including the projects from the 2015 call, were granted. So it's quite substantial, quite a lot of projects. And the total LIFE contribution towards the Netherlands over that period was about 85 million euros, so also quite substantial. Average project size in the Netherlands was 0.6 million euros, nearly 0.6 million euros. However, the Dutch waterboards performed far better than that. They started, let's say in 2002, I think the project for Vasseveld was one of the first projects in which a Dutch waterboard was involved. And in that period, so a period of 14 years, we had 10 successful LIFE projects for the Dutch waterboards, in which the Dutch waterboards were involved. Only in the environment program, because in the LIFE nature program also Waternet was successful with a nature project in their June area. And here the total LIFE contribution was about 11.7 million, which is about 1.2 million per project. So the Dutch waterboards were quite successful. Can we cheer? Yes, we can cheer one way or another. On the other hand, we should realize that in the last 2 calls, the 2014 and 2015, there were no successful applications from the waterboards in the Netherlands. So that might be a little bit worrying. I've detailed out also the results of the waterboards about what type of projects were in fact granted. Well, we see the 4 projects we are presenting here today, of course, but also the membrane bioreactor in Vasseveld, also the winterwater project in Winterswijk, and also the effluent treatment plant in Leiden Zuidwest from the waterboard Rijnland. And the pharmafilter project, which was at Delftland and the Reinier de Graaf Hospital. As I said, 11.7 million euro subsidy, but the total project cost, estimated project costs were about 46 million as they were presented in the application form. And we should realize that what was presented in the application form are not real costs, because it's not based on tariffs, for instance, but based on hourly, on real personal costs. So the real cost of all these projects may be perhaps 55 million euros. But what has life brought us over that period? I think quite a lot. We had a successful demonstration of membrane bioreactor technology in a communal wastewater treatment plant. We had the development of cold Anamox. We had the successful demonstration of the one-step filter at the Leiden wastewater treatment plant. We had a successful demonstration of the Hellofeed filters at the waterboard Stichtse Rijnlanden. We had a successful demonstration of the pharmafilter, which is now, in fact, implementing at, I think, third or fourth hospital in the Netherlands. We had the successful development, or at least we have the development of the Vira and Temista technology, which is hopefully going to be built later on this year, or perhaps starting next year. And we had the development of the fine screens and cellulose and glucose recovery, as presented by Bob. And I found out that I forgot, of course, the most successful project of all, the OMZ, hosted by Waterboard Vallei en Veluwe. What do we see at all of these projects? We see the collaboration in the so-called golden triangle, Gouden Driehoek, in which the market and the knowledge institutions and the end users are cooperating and are in fact able to come to a successful live project, in which I think STOWA has played in all of the projects an important role as the knowledge broker, but also as the binding organization, also very important for the dissemination in all of the projects. What is perhaps striking in this list, that is that the NEREDA development is missing. In fact, for NEREDA there was a live application, but the evaluators at live didn't deem it a very innovative project. So I don't know what I should think about that, but for me it's clear that not all good projects are also going to be a successful live project. Then the importance for the water sector. Some of the things have already been mentioned by the former speakers. It may act as a catalysator. Yes. It's speeding up developments. Sometimes you see that if there's pressure on the process, and life can put a little pressure on the process because you have a very strict deadline, then organizations are able to sign for a contribution. Normally that would take a long and tedious process internally. We've seen that it's possible to have a successful live application, including all the necessary signatures in 1 week. So it can act as a catalysator. Also, it brings a financial contribution, which often is also considered as a part of risk mitigation for the water boards. Henry already told something about it. Without the live subsidy, it is questionable whether or not the project omzet would have been the same as it is now. It also contributes to the visibility of Dutch innovations, which is one of the goals of our national policy on this. And it gives access to policy as well, because when you act in life, you're a member of the European family, and it gives you more easy access to policy makers as well. And last but not least, it builds stronger partnerships than perhaps otherwise would have been the case. Few of the projects have had the honor of the visit and the opening by our king, our former prince of the Netherlands. So give him a big hand. What is the future importance of life for the Dutch water sector, or perhaps for the water sector as a whole? We have still some challenges to go. Water quality in the Netherlands is still at stake. It's not fulfilling all requirements the Water Framework Directive sets towards water quality. Also the risk of new substances, pharmaceuticals, pesticides, hormone disruptive compounds have already been mentioned, but I think are a risk. Also, the circular economy is pressing also upon the water boards to do something, and not to consider wastewater as wastewater, but to consider wastewater as a resource for new materials. Furthermore, climate change, very important. The Union of Water Boards in the Netherlands yesterday called upon measures to mitigate and adapt to climate change. And last but not least, the problems we have with sludge disposal. Then, in the Netherlands, we have little subsidy possibilities left for water projects, pure water projects. On the other hand, we have access to other top sectors. For instance, the top sector energy in the Netherlands is providing subsidies for energy-related or bio-based related projects. And some projects here have also had subsidy from these Dutch energy schemes. Therefore, additional EU funding is necessary and essential. And you could have a look at which subsidy and EU subsidy schemes might be relevant, from Horizon to LIFE to Interact to the SME instrument or to the Fast Track to Innovation. And as you can see, LIFE is among the, let's say, smaller programs with 1 to 3 million of subsidies. But one has to realize that it's possible for one applicant or for a small consortium to have 1 to 3 million euros. Where it is for the Horizon program, normally you need about 8-10 partners at least. So in that way, LIFE is a very interesting program, especially as it pays for 60% of the costs. The LIFE 2014 and 2020, and I will come to this very shortly because I'm sure Mike will go deeper in on this. It's a continuation of the former programs, but especially climate change is a new aspect. And what is also new, or perhaps not so new, is that it also is going to support close-to-market projects. In fact, what the SME instrument or the Fast Track to Innovation kind of actions. So, what our experience regarding the LIFE program? I think it stays an important subsidy program for the Dutch water boards. It has a wide scope. It's suitable for substantial subsidies and substantial projects. It has a substantial financial contribution towards the project, so it's really covering part of the risks an organization might anticipate. And it's a podium for international exposure. But That's the good one about it. But on the other hand, there's a very strong competition. So former successes within the LIFE program are not a guarantee for success in the future. How can we be successful if we would apply for in the new program? Well, applications should match the call as it is with the subject solutions, but also the boundary conditions. So the application has to be correct in all its facets. It should have national, but especially an EU relevance, and it's strengthened towards the EU relevance compared to the former LIFE programs. The partnership, all essential partners should be in the partnership. So it's very important to have all partners on board. And the project should be logical in terms of work packages and outcomes. And of course, results should be transferable, and communication and dissemination is of utmost importance. Some tips. That's my last sheet. Think proactive and opportunistic. You have to prepare already a project which is only about to start a year from now. So if you apply for this year within LIFE, your project can only start next year. But see also the big picture. Think big. Look first for the relevant Dutch subsidy schemes, and perhaps you can even combine them with the European subsidy schemes. Start on time, then you have time to prepare and find the right partners, of course. Use the support of the executing agency, or perhaps the national contact points, as RVO is in the Netherlands. And perhaps consider external support, which has proven to be not a guarantee, but perhaps has contributed to the success. I have no further questions, but I would like to give the floor first to, or I don't have questions, perhaps you have, but I like to give the floor first to Maaike.